As socialism surges in blue cities across the United States, progressives, they are now looking to their next big target, Colorado. Tomorrow, a 29-year-old Democratic socialist, Maylot Quiros, will be facing off against a 15-term Congresswoman, Diana DeGette. The Democratic primary is for Denver's solid blue seat in Colorado's 1st congressional district. Of course, we're watching it closely, as much of the nation is doing the same, as this race has massive national implications with this new wave of leftists really looking to force out the old guard right out of power. Politico playbook put it this way, quote, "Expect to learn plenty tomorrow night about how insurgent messaging really lands outside of a coastal metropolis and what that means for the future of the Democrats and perhaps the presidential contest come 2028. Welcoming back our panel now, Democratic strategist Madeline Somerville. Madeline, good to see you. Thanks for staying with us. Also with us, GOP strategist Chet Love. Appreciate you both. All right, so Madeline, how do you see things playing out in the primary there in Colorado tomorrow night?
So it's not just Colorado, actually. We've got Michigan and Wisconsin coming up, too. And those are swing states, right? If the Democratic Socialists can do well in swing states, then the Republican Party is really in trouble. But absolutely, that political article is right. We are going to see how effective the DSA messaging and their wins and their momentum is outside of New York City. And I think it's beyond because as jury consultant, I think about psychology and persuasion all the time. It's beyond the fact that it's the messaging, right? It's about Mamdani. It's about him as a person. And the fact that these wins have just taken place in New York doesn't necessarily imply that they're going to elsewhere, right? I think that if they can get the Mamdani endorsement, just like with Trump's base, right? If they can get the Trump endorsement, it's going to mean something. And I think that, and I've said this for a while, it's not necessarily even that it's socialism, just as my co-panelist said last time, it's just what's on the menu that's new. And right now, the Democratic Party is where the Republicans were 10 years ago, where they were like, we just want some change. We just want something different. And Trump came along and said, I got something different for you. I think that's what's happening here, because people don't even necessarily know what the Democratic Socialists stand for. They just know it's different. And so I think that we're going to see how effective being different is, and we're going to see how much power Mamdani has to sort of effectuate in a wave of we want something different. Really.
Yeah, but Chet, different isn't always good.
That's true.
Going this far left, I mean, we'll see what happens. But if a 15-term progressive gets knocked out, you know, is any Democrat safe? Moderate Democrat who, you know, has been in an established part of the establishment Democrat Party, is anybody safe?
Well, forget about if Democrats are safe. We're worried about if America is safe. Like my colleague just said, most people, most voters in America have no idea what democratic socialism is, and that's what's dangerous. They're voting on these concepts or ideas of freezing rent, making healthcare affordable, et cetera. So, yeah, affordability, people say, yeah, sure, I want to vote for that. But the dangerous thing is the poison pill in terms of what that actually looks like, in terms of how they're going to do it, right? They want to dismantle capitalism in this country. We just talked about it, where people who are successful in this country now are demonized. If you do well in America, you're a bad person, and we need to take all your wealth away. We also have the issues in this country where Democratic socialists have voted for open borders. America overwhelmingly supported Donald Trump because we wanted to close the borders and prioritize Americans. But what most people don't realize is these Democratic socialists, they don't care about Americans. They care about their Democratic socialist, a globalist agenda, which is not putting America first. And that's the difference between the MAGA movement and the DSA. Is MAGA is America first. The DSA is globalist first.
Yeah, and Politico agrees, Madeline. It says that the race will prove whether insurgent, far-left messaging will land outside coastal cities. So if it goes socialist tomorrow, is this the blueprint, Madeline, for the Democrat Party?
Yeah, I think it is. And I think some of the things that were just said were spot on, and some of them were way too far. But the point, I think, is that from a personal perspective, right? I'm not overwhelmingly anti-capitalist, right? I'm a Democrat, but I am only for capitalism when it is heavily, heavily, heavily regulated, because businesses by nature in America, because of our legal framework, are inherently unethical, because the number one and only goal that corporations are legally allowed to have is to make money for the shareholders, other than just abiding by the laws. So I believe in them being heavily regulated. The problem is, in this economy, and especially with Republicans in office, right? The problem is that they want to remove regulations because they make the argument that it hurts industry. It's the same argument in supporting billionaires, right? And right now, we're not being paid enough in our regular jobs to be able to make a living. We're having apartment complexes that are price fixing and making it to where people can't afford to live. The scales are tipped in the billionaires' favor. And so as long as that continues to happen, people are going to look at capitalism and say, maybe we need something different because my interests are not being looked out for here.
Well, Chet, Zoran Mamdani has said that he thinks a democratic socialist could become president of the United States. I mean, it was a jaw-dropping soundbite. And then, you know, to your point a moment ago, we all need to be worried about this. Republicans are arguing that the rise of socialism doesn't just hurt Democrats with moderate voters, but Senator Raphael Warnock said it's Republicans who should be concerned. Listen to this.
If I were a Republican this morning, I would be deeply worried because they are having an argument about who is the most loyal to Donald Trump. We are a big tent party focused on the ordinary concerns of everyday Americans.
Sounds like what Madeline was saying, a bit of it anyway. Chet, your reaction.
Again, this is a lot of rhetoric. At the end of the day, Republicans aren't about who's loyal to Donald Trump. It's about who's loyal to America. Again, and what we need to see and hear is that what Democrats are saying is what? We want to regulate. We want to regulate, and regulation is going to what's going to make America better. The reality is that's not true. I'll give you a great example. You look at what the great work that Lee Zeldin has done in the EPA. We have continued to make air and water cleaner in this country. We have protected the environment, but we've gotten rid of a whole bunch of needless regulations, which is actually hampering the economy, which is making things harder. We just talked about housing as a second example. The biggest challenge in this country around affordability of housing is the supply, because Democrats have created more red tape. And these type of initiatives and policies that President Trump's putting forward is cutting the red tape to allow more housing supply and the economy to work. Democratic socialists want more government housing. They want more government intervention, which we've seen doesn't work. It creates more taxes on hardworking Americans, and it's just, it doesn't work, plain and simple. So,
yep.
My friend, just to be clear quickly.
Very quickly, Madeline.
Sorry, yes, just to be clear quickly, the MAHA movement is furious right now with the Trump administration because of some of the regulations that have been pulled back, specifically putting chemicals back into our food, which benefits those big corporations and not the people, keeping us healthy and safe.
So it's up to the people to make sure businesses are doing the right thing ethically, and you do that with the power of the pocketbook and then electing people to Congress who will enforce the legislation that you want. Madeline Somerville, Chet Love, thanks to both of you for being here. Great discussion, as always. Thanks for your time. Good to see you.